Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
It's time once again for everybody to come aboard that Green Screens Media train. What is up? This is One and Done, and we are getting down to it. I am your humble conductor of the aforementioned Green Screens Media train. My name is Jay Heinrich. You can follow me on Twitter at Dr. William Cannon for some shit posting, some crazy retweets every once in a while. Mostly wrestling and sports and stuff. And, a little college basketball in there, too. That's what we're here for, right? And, of course, joining me in studio tonight, you see, we only got the 2 boxes tonight. Our guy at Fantasy Nav, Eric Romoff, with the night off, but never too far away. But in the studio with me, of course, you can follow him on Twitter at MCHolland34. He is the OG Money Mike, DFS Avenger himself, Mike Holland. What it do, baby?
What up? I'm sad, but I'm excited, man. I'm sad, but I'm excited, right? The end of the college basketball season, I guess. At least for the games. We were joking around last couple of days talking about it seems like trying to cover the transfer portal and coaching changes is a little more difficult than trying to figure out who to play under 5K in this 2-game slate. So a lot going on, man. It's going to be a fun off season. I think we got some things in the works, hopefully for all our listeners coming up, with some head coaches and things like that. So, we'll get you a schedule as soon as we can. But for tonight, man, I'm excited to talk about this 2-gamer. Final Four time, man. And, the contests are still nice. I mean, this is it right here. Probably not the matchups we thought we were going to see. But they should still be 2 solid basketball games. From a DFS perspective, it is going to be maybe a little one-sided as to which game we want to target. But if you're trying to win 25K, we got to get a little different. So I'm excited to talk about it, man. What are your thoughts on the slate? And, just everything that we got going on coming up.
I think it's great. Of course, this is not the game leading off that everybody thought we'd have. I think out of 27 million gazillion brackets, there were 19 that had this Final Four maybe. So kudos to those cats that threw darts up against the wall to pick their teams.
I feel like you should win money just for that.
You should absolutely. If there's 2 5s and a 9 and you hit it, you should win $1 million.
$500.
Million. No, fuck, million. Pay me. Give me my money. You know what I'm saying? But no, man, for real though, it's impressive if you got that far, no matter how you did it. I think these are going to be 2 great games. Let's not sleep on Florida Atlantic and San Diego State in this first matchup. It might be a little lower scoring than the Miami UConn game, but this is some good basketball. These are 2 teams that are playing really, really well right now. And this slate, it opens up a lot of possibilities just because of the type of teams that we're getting here. It opens up a lot of different ways to approach this. And yeah, man, I'm excited to have this little 2-gamer here. We don't often get these little mini slates like this, except at this time of the year. We're used to playing 12 gamers, with guys that the price kings above 10K. And here we are with our guy Adama Sanogo checking in at 8,200 and as the price king, So we're going to be able to approach this a lot of different ways, Mike. We might as well just go ahead and dive into this first game here. We've got, like you were bringing up earlier, we've got Florida Atlantic going up against the San Diego State Aztecs. The Aztecs are a 2.5-point favorite here. The projected Ken Palm score anyway is 131.5. That's a predicted total, I should say. And of course, if you've watched us before, and if you haven't, we go off of Ken Palm's numbers when we talk about lines and totals and things like that. And when we talk about efficiency ratings and all that, we do base that on Ken Palm, if you were not aware. So 131 point total, that's something that would normally make me go, bah, it makes me want to puke.
It wouldn't even be mentioned on a 12-game slate.
We wouldn't even have it. It wouldn't even be listed. But again, with a game like this, Mike, on the slate, it gives us a chance to find different ways to get weird. And that's what it's going to take down that 25K in this 2-game slate. So, Mike, I want to ask you first, man, let's start off with the Owls of Florida Atlantic. 24th offensive efficiency, 30th defensive efficiency, 155th in tempo. Okay, whatever. Who cares? Like, this is a good team. John L. Davis at the top of their price range at 7,600. We've seen him put up that 63 burger in the tournament.
Yeah.
How should we look at approaching this Florida Atlantic team that can put up points? They have put up points. They've been over 70 in this tournament. They're going up against a pretty good defensive team in San Diego State, obviously, but they have the ability to put some points on the board. So, cut to the chase here. How should we approach this San Diego State team? I'm sorry, this Florida Atlantic team.
Yeah, man. It's tough, man. Like your initial reaction to this slate is, to go 3-2, 3-3, and for good reason in the second game, in the UConn Miami game. But with this many entrants and trying to win 25K, one way to be different is to play this one a little bit heavier than what you may want to. I like San Diego State in general in this game, so it's going to be tough for me to, really jump onto these Owls. Now, you talked about John L. Davis. I mean, that 63 spot was actually on my third place team in the $44 during that slate and helped me win like $750. So I have a soft place in my heart for John L. Davis during this tournament. But, man, like you talk about it and you look at the pricing here and you talk about Sanogo at 8,200. Oh, John L. Davis is 7,600, right? So the difference between the two is not a lot, right? Now, Davis, obviously, high usage. Yes, Eric here. Foul. Oh, man, this guy with his little quotes. Foul owl on the prowl with the emoji. My goodness.
Yeah, if you guys weren't here for the last show, Eric did cash a futures bet on FAU making it to the Final Four. So talk about
in Vegas.
In Vegas. But sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
No, yeah, that's. I wish I had that many drinks that night. I mean, look, it's a two-headed monster with the Owls, followed by just a plethora of options that are kind of annoying to figure out who's going to be that third contributor. With Davis, the high usage rate, high shot rate. As our guy Eric likes to say, man, he gets it done in a lot of different categories, man, shooting 37% from three. I struggle here. Now, look, I look back to the Tennessee matchup, right? And San Diego State is basically Tennessee with better offensive individual talent. Tennessee was first in opponent three-point percentage defended, and San Diego State is second in that category. Now, FAU was able to knock down some shots. Tennessee really couldn't counter with those guy Ziegler on the offensive end. They just really struggled to put the ball in the basket in that game. Obviously, that has a lot to do with Florida Atlantic. They have a pretty solid defense, 30th in the country in defensive efficiency, and played in a very tough conference, Jay. I mean, you were on Better Sports Network earlier talking about, this isn't really a fluke. Like, Conference USA was no joke. We watched in the NIT. We watched UAB play North Texas for the NIT title. Like, both of those teams probably should have been over some of these Big Ten teams now looking back at it.
Don't get me started.
Like, come on. We were begging for CUSA to get two teams in, whether it was by, an at-large. Obviously, that didn't happen, but they were 10th in the country in strength of conference, according to KenPom. So all that is to say is that, yes, FAU is battle-tested. I think they're going to put up a challenge, but with San Diego State's ability to have some more weapons offensively than Tennessee did, from an overall game experience, I feel like San Diego State has enough, and the depth. I mean, both of these teams just can basically play 12 guys on each side, which is really annoying for fantasy purposes. But
Definitely.
For large field fantasy purposes, if you pick the right guy or right combination of guys in this game, because their ownership is going to be so spread out, except for maybe Davis and Martin, who are going to carry higher ownership, San Diego State guys are probably just going to be spread completely out. So for that reason, like John L. Davis telling me he's going to be popular in the spot in this game is kind of scary. I've actually been a fan of Elijah Martin this entire year. He basically does the same thing that Davis does. I mean, they're almost identical when you look at their rates. I mean, they're literally 1 percentage point off on like almost every single rate, from usage to shot to combined rebounding rate to assist rate to steal rate to even 3-point percentage. Like, it is crazy. Yeah. So I'd rather take the $800 savings between the two. Jay, what are your thoughts between Davis and Martin? And am I getting too cute by just trying to save the 800 and feeling that a lot of people are going to go to Davis? Like, is he your initial guy, because we've seen that ceiling, but we've seen Martin go for 50 too. So
I think you're right on here. Use that $800 somewhere else. I like John L. Davis as a player. Like, there's no doubt about that. But I think in this spot where you're going to want to get cute, you're going to want to get cute in that mid section, I should say. You're going to want in that mid price range is what I mean. You're going to want to be able to have that extra $800 to spend up for, like, maybe a Nick Boyd at 5,500 if you're interested in somebody like that, or, where you're not having to dip into the 4,000s as much for some of these players whose usage rates dip into the mid-teens. Boyd is somebody that I kind of like here with the usage rate, shot rate, 20% combined rebound rate here, 18% assist rate. He can chip and dip a little bit with the steals, and he shoots 38% from three. So, Boyd is somebody that I think we should pay attention to. And if you're spending up for John L. Davis and then you're filling everybody else into your lineup, I don't know, man, that $800 really could make a difference as you're looking through the middle of some of these price ranges here. Because honestly, Mike, there's not a lot that interests me when we get down into the 4K and even the high threes, where sometimes we like to look at these and find those bargains. We were all over Quinterly when he was in the high threes and low fours, a few weeks ago, even a month ago. And that was somebody that we could depend on in that price range. You're not going to find that as much on this slate. So,
especially when you don't know where the minutes are going to be. Like, we don't know who's going to get the minutes.
Yeah,
like, one thing we do know is that Davis and Martin are going to get the minutes, right? Like, and Golden, Boyd
as well.
But like, we're saying we get the minutes, but that, we're talking like 32 to 30, 34. Right. Man, like Greenlee, Weatherspoon, Gaffney, Forrest, like, yeah, like, would I love to take a shot at Forrest or Gaffney down here? Absolutely. But there's a real chance that they don't even play 10 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Like, look, some of these, as far as strategy in this, I guess if you're going to go away from, like, okay, so let's say 80% of the field, 90% of the field is going to take a softer approach to this game, right? So if you're saying that, what a lot of people are going to do is they're going to play John L. Davis or Elijah Martin, and then they're going to put them with probably 2 San Diego State players, right? Because their prices are all under the average salary, and that's going to allow you to kind of go and chip and dip, as we like to say, in the second game. So where can you get different? It is by taking a shot, a pairing with maybe, I wouldn't say Gaffney or Forrest, but a Greenlee or a Weatherspoon, because we know that their floors are a little bit safer than Gaffney and Forrest. And Greenlee, if he's knocking down his threes, which is, man, like I just got done saying, like, San Diego State's tough against the three. If he's knocking down his threes and he can get you look, this isn't the same 16 fantasy points as on a 12-game slate, right? Like, 16 fantasy points from someone at 4-4 on this type of slate is almost like 25 fantasy points, because there's 2 games.
Yeah.
And it's there's not 10 other games you have to worry about where 4K guys can go off for 6, 7X, right? Like 4X is going 3.5X is going to feel like 4.5, 5X on this slate. So if I'm going to go, maybe a 2-2 in this spot, which is probably the most I could really get to. If you want to go real crazy and play 3-2, you better hope this game either goes overtime or you pick the exact 5 guys that get there. And doing that is like, on these 2 teams that play 20 plus guys, you are literally spinning the wheel to get that done. Like, if you could tell me, Jay, and you had the Almanac to tell me between Rosado, Greenlee, Weatherspoon, Gaffney, and Forrest, and then all the backups on the San Diego State side that play 18 to 20 minutes, like, man, like, you're just living Back to the Future style right there, man. So your bracket probably also had FAU and San Diego State in the Final Four too, if you can nail that. Honestly, this is the ultimate spin the wheel, right? Like, in this instance, we got to go with who we think. If we're going to, when we're going to spend up here, and spending up again, it doesn't cost you as much on this slate. So no go is the Price King again at 8,200.
And there's not a lot after that. It drops dramatically. You're living in the high fives and in the mid 6K ranges for a lot of the players on these teams. And yeah, San Diego State, which we'll get to in a minute, they don't even have anybody over 6K at 6K or higher. So when we're looking at this Florida Atlantic team, Mike, and I'm glad you brought up the fact, like, we talk a lot on this show about guys getting to 4K, needing to get to 5K to benefit us. Weatherspoon has shown that, he can get to 20. He's gotten to 20 in this tournament a couple of games ago. He shoots 35% from three. Yes, I know, like you said, San Diego State is good at defending the three-point shot, but you're going to have to get different. You're going to have to find ways. And if people are looking at these stats and even these game logs, Greenlee shoots 41%. He's had more attempts than Witherspoon has from three this year. Yeah. So, I mean, like, it's just finding ways to double up. If you're going to go with Martin here and maybe a Boyd even, that's probably all you're going to roll with on Florida Atlantic. If you're going to go Martin and then you're going to spend down a little bit, is it Rosado? Is it Greenlee? Mike, do you have a pick here that you feel better about?
Yeah, I think I do. I think you have to match the either the forwards or the guard. Okay, so look, you got to play from a game theory perspective, right? So you bring up a good point. So if I play Martin, right, I almost want John L. Davis to get into foul trouble so I can play either Greenlee or Witherspoon, right? Like, or one of these guards, because that run could go from 18 to 20 minutes to 26 minutes, like every minute is going to count. You're essentially, you would need to, if you're going to play anything more than a 1-1 or a 2-1 on this thing, you have to have some type of game theory where you think, hey, I'll take a 3-point over, right? Get into the 135, 136. And then I need someone that makes sense. Like, if I play Elijah Martin and John L. Davis are probably going to take away from each other. Being super contrarian is playing both of those guys together. I just don't see how it happens. That's the ultimate. And hey, like, that's one way to play it, right? Like, just take the two guys that are the most involved and move on. But it seems like it's going to be really tough for both of those guys to 4x, 5x, right? So it's, hey, let me take Martin. Let me take Greenlee in a game theory where John L. Davis gets into foul trouble. Let me take one guy from San Diego State. And now you're different by going over and attacking, the other side, right? You're not too heavily invested, but you're more invested in a game theory perspective. If you're playing someone like Elijah Martin and Giancarlo Rosado, right? Like, John L. Davis can still take away from, Rosado with this combined rebounding rate. Like, it's just so many different things. I would almost want to pair it to a game theory perspective where you don't play Golden, right? Like, you're probably going to play some Witherspoon in there, because he's a guy that can come in and give them stretch the floor a little bit for them. Can grab a few rebounds. So yeah, I think you got to play it from a game theory perspective and be real safe on this. I hate saying safe on this type of slate, but you don't want to go too crazy. I know we talk about getting weird on the 12-game slate. Like, you really benefit because the ownership isn't going to be as heavy as it is, right? Like, you get too cute on this thing and you're going to bury yourself with, you don't want to be that guy that has multiple under sub 10% plays, right? You want to be the guy that has the one sub 10% and maybe the sub 20% play that combines to make a big score. So yeah, that's where I'm at, man. For me, if I had to pick, I'm really just targeting Elijah Martin here. And I'm probably going to play 15 to 20 lineups. I'll mix them in with some Greenlee. I'll mix them in with, maybe take a shot on the Forest just in case, he gets a little bit of run and somebody, Davis gets into foul trouble or Boyd gets into foul trouble. Yeah. If you had to pick between Davis, Martin, and Boyd, which guy are you going to go with?
I'm probably going Boyd. I'm a big fan of Boyd. I shouted him out a couple of slates ago, and he came through with the 25, which would be about 4.5 X at this point. And the floor is there with Boyd too. I think he's going to get the run. I love his intangibles. I love his rates. And again, he shoots outside of Martin. He shoots the most threes on this team. I know that San Diego State defends the three well. Florida Atlantic is going to shoot threes. They're going to shoot some threes here, period. So
yeah, I think San Diego State is 238th in the country in opponent 3-point rate. So they will allow people to shoot threes. They're just really tough at closing out, right? And teams don't want to go in there and challenge Mensa. So
right. That makes sense.
Threes. It's just whether or not they can convert them is going to be the question.
Of course, yeah, and that could be the difference here too in a game going over by 5, 6, 7 points over this total. if some of those threes fall. And then if you're invested in this, like the majority of people on these slates probably will not be, that's how it pays off here, man. So get a little different. I'm with you. Like, I'm not saying like don't play Davis at all.
Yeah,
I think you've got to mix them in, right? Yeah, that's not the point we're trying to make here. But if you're looking for what we think will be that optimal sort of a lineup, save that $800, go with Martin, spin that wheel, match him up with some of these guys. And, like you were saying, Mike, play those different game threes on your head with Davis getting into foul trouble or Martin getting into foul trouble or Golden getting into foul trouble. And then Rosado's minutes go up, it's just something to think about. There's a lot of different contributors on this FAU team.
One last point before we switch over is that leaving salary on a 2-game slate is not the worst thing in the world. Like it's actually a separator. I actually go into it thinking like, hey, save $1 to $2K in salary because that may automatically make sure. So what's the first thing every DFS player does? How much remaining salary do I have? Where can I spend it?
Spend it all.
And then you end up in small slates the same as and then you split the 25K, which wouldn't be bad. Split it with 42 teams, like whatever. Like, okay. Yeah. But if you had the optimal was leaving an extra $1,000 on the table, now you want 25K to yourself. And that happens in every sport. So
it's interesting. And I'm glad we're talking about these different theories, the different ways to approach this, especially on a 2-game slate. Remember, this is different. And Mike, you mentioned in the studio before we came on air that like, if you look at your guys and it's like, oh, he's 50% owned. In a 12-game slate, you're looking and it's like, damn, everybody. Of course, it's a 2-game slate. Some of these guys are going to have these high ownerships. What you don't want to necessarily do to be different is have these guys that are like 75%, 68%. It's okay if when these lineups lock and you look and see what you're working with, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's okay. Let's look at it. Yeah, okay, let's say Nick Boyd's at 50% because he's at a good price. Okay, that's fine though. Like, don't make those decisions. Don't not play a guy like that because you think he's gonna be half owned. Get your guys, but just find ways to be different, right? Let's move on to that San Diego State team, Mike. And if you're with us on YouTube, and we know you are, we see you in watching with us and hanging out with us. Make sure you leave us a comment. Let us know what you think is going to happen in this first matchup. What are you excited about for this Final Four? Are you going to be watching this first game between Florida Atlantic and San Diego State? Are you as interested as we are? If you watch our show, I'm guessing you probably are. But get a little bit crazy, get weird with this one. Let's move on to those Aztecs, Mike. San Diego State, 75th offensive efficiency, and 4th defensive, 266 in tempo. For whatever it's worth, this is a pace-up game for them. Like I mentioned, Mike, though, nobody at 6K or higher for San Diego State. A lot of different contributors, a lot of guys over 22% usage rates, 22% or higher, and then a bunch in the high teens. A lot of guys that get assists on this team, so it's kind of hard to pick and choose maybe where those are going to come from. When you have a team like this, Mike, and with a 131.5 total or so, like the lower total of these two games, and you look and their highest priced player is 5,900. Granted, the next one is 58, 57, and then 56. It's not like there's a huge fall off, which makes it tough, in terms of even like we were talking saving money, on the first one between the top two players for FAU. What should we do here in this situation? 2-game slate. Everybody's basically living in that mid-range. What should we do?
Man, all right. So we like to go last 5 games. Out of the 9 players that we have written down that we would target in this game, if you put their last 5 games, right? Simple math. I was always told there was no math on this show, but we're going to do it for, one of the last DFS shows. 45 games. 3 have produced a total over 30 fantasy points. That's Lamont Butler 3 games ago. That was Matt Bradley 4 games ago. And that was Darian Trammell 2 games ago. So this is why I'm saying it might not be – you don't want to go too crazy and overload, right? Like – there's a reason why none of these guys are over 6K. Now, the key is to find maybe the one guy that gets to 30 and then the other guy that fits around the 25 piece, right, or the 22 piece. that can get you there, or just one-offing and just hoping that if this game goes under, you're probably going to want a 1-1 on this side, right? So look, we'll run it down here. I mean, spin the wheel, man. Like Lamont Butler, what are you going to get with him? You're going to get a guy that's going to take some threes. He can hand out assists, can get you some steals. Similar to a Darian Trammell, who's $100 cheaper. You're basically flipping a coin between these two guys. Same usage rate, identical shot rates, identical assist rate, identical steal rates, the exact same 3-point percentage at 32%. Flip a coin. I wouldn't play them together. It just doesn't feel like a smart move there, right? Because they're both two of the lead guards that are going to run the offense. When you slide down to the guys right below them, $100 cheaper for Nathan Mensah. With Mensah, he's kind of the one guy that does something different than everyone else on this team, right? Like, he's going to crash the glass, and that he's going to block shots and create havoc. He's the 2-time Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year. Him and Matt Bradley, when they got bounced out last year, decided that they were going to come back, and I'm so happy for what they announced like 2 days after they got knocked out that they were coming back. Which is why they're one of the oldest and most experienced teams. I think they're 21st in the country in Division I experience. And part of that is because of Bradley and Mensah. So Mensah offers you something different. So I think if you're going to play, a Trammell or a Butler, playing him with Mensah, who does something that doesn't really need to have those things happen and can essentially work off of the assist from those guys, I think he's a smart pairing for the rest of the squad. So I'm really looking at a guard-forward tandem if you're going to go 2 on this side. Matt Bradley, probably my favorite, man. He's 5,600, has the highest usage rate, highest shot rate. They don't like to play him at the end of the games defensively. Like, he's more of an offense-defense substitution guy. But they're going to need his offense, and he's going to get some shots up. So been a little disappointing. Maybe that drags down some ownership. I would love to get the guy with the highest shot rate in this 30% game. Shot rate, and we know what he can do. And he's a leader on this team. So I do like him. Jaden Ledee, we've been a fan of him since the offseason. I'm talking about how he needs to be playing. It's tough to say he needs to be playing 35 minutes when you have, Keyshawn Johnson and all these other guys. Like, a Rope looked good. Or Rope was like playing down the stretch against Creighton, making like pivotal buckets for them. And he's 4,200. Like, I'm just so it's really tough. Micah Parrish, though, for me, Jay, is a guy that is very intriguing because, one, he gives them something that they don't really have, and that's 3-point shooting. So, they're not a great 3-point shooting outside of Matt Bradley. He's someone that can get some blocks, get some steals. That rack. And yeah, I do like Micah Parrish, man. Adam Seiko, 3,300. Like, okay, if you think Trammell or Butler gets into foul trouble early, he can log some minutes. He just doesn't do much. He shoots well from 3, but he's got a 12% usage. And it's just like, he's just there to kind of run the offense. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm thinking Mensah, if I'm stacking, it's going to be Mensah or Ledee with one of these guys, with one of these guards. Yeah, but really, I might just one off one of these guards or to be different, maybe take a shot at someone like, a Bradley with a Seiko in case, Trammell or somebody gets into foul trouble and needs someone to, but Parrish is probably going to be a popular one out of this group, even though he bombed last game because he's coming off of the back-to-back 24-25 spot before that. So
your thoughts, man? Yeah. No, I agree. I think he is going to be popular, and he's somebody that just looking at the way that this game will probably line up, I think it's warranted that he'll be a popular play in this matchup. Like you were saying, it's the 20% shot rate at 4,900 that I like a lot. Like, it's hard to get away from that. 90% usage rate, 2% block, 2% steal, so he can chip and he can dip, and then he's got the 37% from 3 as well on 122 tries. I think he's going to be one of the more popular players on the entire slate. Period. Yeah. So if you're talking about ways to get different, if you feel very strongly about him and you think he's, in the ace lineup, then play him, and especially if you're going to double him up with somebody like a Mensah, I don't know if you're necessarily going to play him with a Trammell or a Butler if you want to double up guards in this game. It's tough. It might be a good way to get different again, but I think Parrish is going to be super popular in spite of that 4-point output that he had the last time around. I was looking at this box score. Creighton played 5 guys like 36 minutes in that game, man. Like, they played nobody except their main guys, and it didn't matter. Like, it did not matter. San Diego State is a really, really good team, but so is FAU, man. That's why I'm begging people to watch this game.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be a great one. Seiko, to me, he gets the threes off. He shoots them at a high rate, but that's basically all you're going to get out of him, right? Like, you're not going to get much else out of Seiko. So if you think he's going to hit 3 or 4 threes and he's going to pay off at 4x for you in that spot at 3,300, I mean, it's not a bad play, you know, especially at 3,300. And then you have so much flexibility. But the thing about it, man, is
you don't really need it,
you don't need it, right? You don't need
unless
it.
you want to leave. Unless you want to leave salary and hope Trammell or somebody gets into foul trouble.
Right. So
you know
it's a way to approach it, Mike. You're talking about playing 15, 20 lineups, 30 lineups. If you're going, I didn't see if there was a mini max or not. I doubt there is. Is there a mini max?
Yeah.
So especially if you're just jamming lineup after lineup after lineup into the mini max, like, throw Seiko in there, But again, at the top, when you have 59, 58, 57, 5600 at the top of a lineup, dude, what do you do here?
Jay, what are you gonna do with Mensah, man? He feels like the most interesting big on the entire slate. Like, you have Golden on one side, and I don't like Golden because of Mensah. And then we're gonna talk about Amir and Sanogo on the other side. Obviously, we're gonna want to play some of them. Like, it feels like Mensah's not gonna be, because he's just not a guy that's gonna play 32. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not Creighton, so it doesn't feel comfortable. But it's 2 games, man. Like, he's the one guy that does something different than everyone else on San Diego State. So
and they've really been leaning into him lately in the last 3 games, especially. Over 22 fantasy points in each of the last 3. I think while they do play a lot of players, they're not afraid to play 9 guys at least 10 or 12 minutes. Which, as somebody that loves the game, you like to see a lot of guys get in and affect the game in a lot of different ways. I'm not as worried about Mensah's minutes necessarily in this one. I think he's going to get a little bit of run. And at 5,700 with that 34% combined rebound rate, if he gets there, and let's not forget 10% block rate. He's going to block a shot or 2 here. If Mensah backdoors into a double-double with like 3 blocks, he's a slate breaker. I agree that he's one of the most intriguing plays on this slate. I think you got to mix him in here. Out of the guards, I'm going Trammell. I'll have more shares of Trammell than anybody else.
Feels like he's got the highest ceiling, right? Like,
totally agree.
It feels like Trammell and Butler have the highest ceiling. Obviously, they're 2 most expensive, right? The highest ceiling. Why Trammell over Butler though? Any reason?
No, I think it's just a matter of my feel for him right now and just my eyes watching him play and how I feel like he's going to do. Exactly. Yeah. So it's just an eye thing for me. All the rates, like you were saying, everything with Butler, 22 and 22% usage, 21 and 22% shot, 25 and 22% assists. Both have 3% steals. Both shoot 32% from 3. Flip a coin, man. I'm going with Trammell basically off of what I've seen with the eye test on this. I'm not mad at you if you like Butler, but when it comes down to these prices and just trying to, pick a guy, like you were talking about taking a stand in the studio earlier about guys that you will not play, I think you've got to also find guys that you are just going to lock into, make a decision. Right. And Trammell is going to be one of those guys with me. Parrish is going to be super popular, like we talked about. Throw Seiko into a couple of lineups. If he hits 4 threes, boom, he's paid off. Find a way to just don't worry about being weird in this, like just get different, but be smart about it. Don't just throw, is a rope going to be, is he going to be a guy that's going to be on the floor at the end of the game in this one?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not as
I was surprised.
Like that, absolutely right. Don't look
you
at
think
that
you would think it's Ladie. It's like
right. Exactly. So again, I like Seiko in this spot a little bit to sprinkle him in because he's gonna hit. I think he's just gonna hit 3 or 4 threes. Like I think it's gonna happen at 3,300. Don't be afraid to leave salary, like Mike mentioned earlier. You got
to play Ladie too at 5,300 because of his upside. Like we know what it is. And we know that if he's on the floor, The guy's just an animal. And if he ever got 30 minutes, oh my God.
So, we talk about it's tough to stack. Before we wrap this one up and move on to the premier matchup in the Final Four, if you're going to stack here, Mike, if you're going to stack in this game, should you look at which side would you stack more of, I guess, is what the way I want to go with this. And is it an even split? Are you able to do that in this sort of a spot? Or should we focus more of our attention in terms of stacking on the later game?
Yeah, I think you've got to pay attention more to the next game, not get too cute. I think it's stacking in a different way, right? Like I almost want to stack a San Diego starter with the San Diego bench piece. So like I'm looking at Ledee and Parrish as people I could stack with either a Trammell or a Mensah or Bradley. You know what I mean? Like because if they're on the floor together, they're not necessarily going to take away from each other, and they're also not going to be sharing the floor together. It's kind of the way that I see it, because it is a rotation. The same thing happens on the Florida Atlantic, man. It's just a rotation. You know what I mean? So let's not get too cute though, man. Let's slide over this Miami game, because this is gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And if you're in watching YouTube with us right now, make sure you let us know your prediction for that FAU and San Diego State game and how you feel that one's going to go as we move on to this Miami UConn matchup. A little bit more spicy of a total here, 149 points and a half. Excuse me, don't let me forget the hook there. 149 and a half predicted total for Ken Palm. UConn is a 5.5 point favorite, and I understand why. I've said this a couple of times recently on our shows. They've been the most dominant team in the country for the last couple of months, maybe outside, and the team I should say that they're playing against is right behind them. So let's start with those Hurricanes, though, Mike. 5.5 point dogs coming into this one. I was looking at these prices coming into this. Isaiah Wong at the third highest price tag on this team. I don't know if everybody's going to jump on that now, like if everybody's going to see Wong. And Wong's been around this price. Like this isn't, he's not getting a haircut or anything like that. But like at 7,300 in a 2-game slate with a total around 150, everybody's going to jump on Pack. And I get that too, because it's $600 cheaper than Wong. It's $1,000 cheaper than Jordan Miller. And Pack is 1,400 cheaper than Armia here. So I mean
30 to 40 fantasy point upside.
So I mean, Mike, is this a thing where obviously we know that Miami is about their guards, but is this game going to come down to the big man?
Yeah, man. We talked about it on the show the other day, man. Like this Amir and Sanogo Klingon battle is going to be. It's going to be the difference in the game on how, one, it's officiated, and two, how they play. Like, Omir's going to have the biggest game of his life for Miami, I feel, to win this game, even if the guards go off. So if you feel that Miami is going to win, I would probably play Norchad in DFS. Even though the price point may suggest differently, you take a 4X easily on this slate. So a 35, like lock it in. Or normally you see an 8,100 guy and you're like, I need 40, I need 45. You don't really need that from him. The question is, man, and I'm going to ask you this. We talked about it on the last show.
Yeah.
Is he going to get into foul? How are the refs going to call this, man? Is he going to get into foul trouble? Because it's going to be an issue for Miami to be able to do anything if he gets into foul trouble.
We've seen the referees in person affect
Devo Davis.
Exactly.
Drew Timme.
Devo Davis. Drew Timme was the example that I was thinking of on the top of my head. How is this game going to be officiated? How are these two teams going to come out? Are they going to come out, guns a-blazing? Are they going to come out a little timid? Are they going to, I don't think either one of these teams we have to worry about being shy.
Yeah, but, not Jordan Hawkins.
Definitely not. But foul trouble is one of those things to think about, especially in a slate like this where 8,100 for a forward that we've seen. Yeah, if you're looking at the game logs and you look, 5 games ago he had 1 point. Don't throw it out, toss it out. That little guy, wouldn't worry about that little guy, because before that it was 41 and 40. In this tournament, it's been 33, 33, 35, 28. He's 42% combined rebound rate. This is just dripping with upside here. 4% block, 2% steal, so he can chip and dip. But his usage rate's also above 20, shot rate's above 20. I think it is going to come down to whether or not he gets that run. But, Mike, let's go into these guards here for Miami. More guards than Shawshank, as our guy Rothstein likes to say. Start with Miller at 7,700, Wong 7,300, Pack 6,700, Poplar down at 62. Who are you liking the most out of these talented Miami guards?
I mean, I want to like Nigel Pack. I just feel like he's probably going to be the most popular player on the slate. I like Wong too. Maybe I'm just pissed off at Jordan Miller, right? Beating up on our horns there, going straight Serge Ibaka. Not missing a shot.
Amazing
stuff. I feel like his matchup is a little more exploitable with Caravan, right? So we'll see. It feels like Andre Jackson's probably going to need to guard one of these guards, try to take maybe Wong out of the game or Pack out of the game. I don't know that they can't play Caravan on one of those guards, obviously. So he's going to have to guard Miller. And Miller is a Swiss Army knife, man. I kind of feel like you just take your 32 fantasy points for floor from Jordan Miller and you move on with the rest of your lineup. Essentially, he feels like the safest floor ceiling combination of the slate. Love what he brings and I love his matchup. That guard. I don't know. Like, come on, make him a forward, please, DraftKings. Like, just if they make it to the title game, just put. Like, I guess it's showdown, so it doesn't matter. But still, like, it's so annoying. If I got to pick, like, Luka Poplar, is he going to be more popular now?
Is he going to be more popular?
Because he had that 34. I mean, if he is, I don't really want any part of him because he's not really hasn't really been that guy. I guess he just saw that burnt orange and was like, man, I got to tear up some Vivo here. But, yeah, I mean, if I guess from rating him, man, like, it's Jordan Miller for the safe ceiling, floor ceiling. Wong because of Pack's price and his upside, right? Like, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe Nigel Pack just is the play, but I think I may be coming to a sense where I'm just going to straight fade Nigel Pack and just –
Okay, so listen, this is what we were talking about in the studio before. You were talking about taking a stand. Is Pack that guy that you might just decide to take a stand on here and you say, I'm not playing him. This is how I'm going to be different. I'm not playing Pack. Is that something that you're thinking about doing?
It has to be one of the two. It has to be Wong or Pack for me. And I just feel like more ownership is going to go towards Pack because of his price. One, I know he wasn't great last time out against Texas, but he's shown, to throw up some big games. Yeah, so I wish we had ownership projections in college basketball. This thing's so much easier because every time I think something, it's like everybody's on Wong. It's like, because they have the salary to do it. Yeah, but for me, I don't know, man. If you rate them 1, 2, 3, man, for me it's Miller, Wong because of the price, and then Pack, and then Poplar would be fourth for me. Are you on that same train, or are you putting Wong one?
No, I'm actually not. As hard as it is for me to say, because I love that guy. He's on the bottom of that rung for me. I like Miller the best, and then I'll go Pack and then Wong.
Okay.
I just think that your point about Miller and taking into consideration who will be defending him, right? Like, is this a thing where, especially in a slate like this, where you can pay more attention to that stuff, and you should pay more attention to that stuff because you have the time to think about those things. I think this is I know Miller is coming off of that 37, which in the last 5 games for him, that's his peak. I'm not afraid to go back to that well here and play Miller. But let's go down this lineup a little bit farther before we move on to UConn. Yeah. I mean, you've got Bensley Joseph, you've got Anthony Walker, you've got Beverly there down at the tippy top. I said the tippy bottom of this price range, who does have some rates, but just hasn't done much at all recently. Yeah. But if he gets to 9 or 12 even, because he does shoot some threes here and there, if he gets the minutes, that's a thing for me. I don't know if Beverly's going to get the time on the floor unless some of these guys get into foul trouble. So let's move past the starting 5 now, and let's look a little bit, Mike, at Joseph Walker and Beverly. Is there anybody there? Walker's coming off a negative score, and basically he's just a scorer here. So what should we do here? Is this something we should even entertain?
Yeah.
Or because we have the ability to to play with our salaries a little bit more, just don't be too cute.
No, I think you may have to go here, man, especially when we let off with if Omier gets into foul trouble, they really only have one other option. And I like Walker's game, honestly. Like, I think if he was playing anywhere else, he'd be a 20 to 25-minute guy. It's just Larranaga likes to roll out 35 minutes to both Miller and Omier. You know what I mean? So, like, if you think Omir's going to struggle, and he might even need to play some anyway because Klingon is going to play, right? So you're going to need his body. And at 3,500, he's not just a salary saver. He's someone that's probably actually needed for this team. I don't see Jordan Miller guarding Sunogo or Klingon. I'm just picturing Klingon like backing down Jordan Miller. That's just hilarious. I think Anthony Walker may be, and I don't know that a lot of people are gonna think game theory like this, but regardless, like it's added bonus if Omier gets into foul trouble. You just fade Omier and you play Anthony Walker because there's zero chance that they just play Miller at the 5. You cannot do that. Like, it's just not possible to do that against this Connecticut team because, Jay, we watch it. We've seen it all year, and we watched it live.
Yeah.
They're going to go inside. Like, it's not a question of if, it is how much they're going to go inside. They love Klingon. Klingon's rates are out of control once we get to him. Like, we'll talk about why would you not go to him? Bensley Joseph, if you feel like one of the guards getting in foul trouble, you can play him. Harlan Beverly's probably the guy that I'm off of because they're gonna have to play the two bigs, right? They're gonna have to play Miller with let's say Miller gets into foul trouble. They're gonna play Walker with unless UConn decides to do something different and play 4 guards with Hawkins at the 4. Jackson at the 4 and play Sunogo Klingon at the 5. But Carabin's been playing so many minutes, right? Like, I just don't see them switching up. Why would they put a big into foul trouble and not just pound it inside, right? Yeah. So Anthony Walker is someone that I'm probably going to have too much of. I don't know, man. Any thoughts on Joseph Walker or Beverly?
I think Walker's the play here because, again, we've seen it twice with 14 fantasy points.
Yeah.
Twice in the last 5.
And a tough road. Oh, my God, the stretch that they've had to play.
It's probably been one of the more impressive runs, I would say, through a tournament to get to a Final Four that I can remember. I mean, this is a battle-tested team. And, again, like I was hinting at earlier, you can say that UConn, and I will say it again, UConn has been probably one of the, if not one of the top 2 most dominant teams in the country over the last month and a half. Miami is right behind them. And I think Walker will have to play here. And, hey, if Omier gets into foul trouble, and you could see, Walker get in. He's played 24 minutes in the last 5 games. He played 24 against Duke, but that was the one where Omier, only put up the 1. But again, I don't think we should worry too much about looking at these game logs. Think about the game theory. Think about what it's going to take for Miami to get it done in this matchup. I could see Miami shifting up their style a little bit more than I could see UConn doing it. So maybe that's why you can get Walker there. Beverly, again, he shoots a couple of threes here and there. He'll get a steal. He'll chip in the steal here. Does get a couple of dimes here and there, but just haven't seen those consistent totals lately, and they haven't really gone to him at all in the tournament too much. So I like Walker as well as that play there. So, maybe even let's, before we move on to UConn, actually, you know what? Let's move on to UConn, and then I'm going to ask you about how we're going to stack this game up once we talk about both of these teams, okay?
Yeah.
How are you stacking up these games? Leave us a comment. Let us know. What are you doing with this Miami team? Do you like Isaiah Wong more than both of us do? I could totally see a case for that. If you do, leave us a comment right now and let us know if you're playing Wong out of these guards. If you're fading Omier, if you're taking a stand on playing or not playing one of these Hurricanes, Let us know in the chat. And while you're here, don't forget to smash those like and subscribe buttons too, man. We're putting in this work. We're going to continue to put in this work for you guys in the off season, clanging and banging. You know we're going to do it, and we appreciate you for being along this ride for us or with us along the way. All right, Mike, let's move on to these UConn Huskies. 3rd offensive efficiency, 11th in defense. Oh my gosh, they have wrecked everybody that they've played. It's not been competitive.
Yeah,
it hasn't been, and they're still
been
playing
fun.
right now. It has
Fun
been
basketball
awesome
to
to
watch.
watch. We saw them play a couple of games. Yeah, would have been great to get a classic, more than one class. I guess we can't get too spoiled. I mean, we did see like a 32-foot desperation shot to take a lead, and after another lead change, and after overcoming a 12-point halftime deficit. Okay, I'll stop complaining about that in general. But in that West Regional, man, that we saw with our very own eyes in person in Vegas, UConn was easily the most dominant team and deserved to come out of that region. We talked Sonogo already. We brought up a lot of these guys' names just in chatting about how we're going to approach this. Now let's dive in a little bit more. Sonogo is the price king on this slate at 8,200. But Andre Jackson Jr., outside of that foul trouble, he fouled out 5 games ago and only had 6 fantasy points. You got to love his floor, especially in this 2-game slate. Jordan Hawkins has come on super strong and sort of dusted him off a little bit, and his usage has gone up in the last 2 games. Don't forget about Tristan Newton. Caravan, like you already said. Let's talk about these top 5 guys in this UConn team, especially in this lineup, like I said, where you're going to live in that mid-tier unless you're just, you're going to cram Sonogo into your lineup, which I totally get. So, Mike, what are you doing with UConn?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to fade Adama Sonogo. I don't think. I mean, he's just been super consistent. Danny Hurley essentially said and we laugh and we joke. We've talked about in the show is like 17-10. Like, it's not great for DFS, but it'll be great for this slate.
Right.
I'll take a 32 at 8,200 this time, just not anytime during the year. Danny Hurley talked about like the reason why he's been this good is because he's not playing 38 minutes a night. Like, look at Drew Timmy, and he's just out there it's nice to be able to just go to Klingon and Adama Sonogo be super efficient in his 28 to 30 minutes, right? Like, and look, we're getting it down to it. So we saw Klingon in the first half of that Gonzaga didn't get his second run of the first half, and Hurley's gonna ride Sonogo if it comes down to it in a close game. So you may obviously that boost there. So just play Sonogo. It comes down to me on what to do with the guards here, like Jackson, Hawkins, and Newton. I'm all over Hawkins, man. I just think the kid's a superstar. He's kind of a throwback, like Ray Allen type, right? Like, he just comes off the screen, shoots threes, like
quick trigger,
a little more athletic than what you would think he should be. Like, he just reminds me of Ray Allen, man. Like, I'm not saying he has the ceiling of him as a pro, but as a collegiate athlete, like he kind of reminds me of him. I like him at 6,900. I just think he's going to get a ton of shots. Like, Miami they're one of the first teams to make the Final Four in the last, I think there's some stat I saw in the last 20 years where their defensive efficiency is lower than top 45, and they're 103rd or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it feels like UConn's going to be able to score some points here, man. They're not one-dimensional at all. They can shoot the 3. Newton can shoot the 3. He's a little bit cheaper. Now, I think you can get different by fading Hawkins and playing Newton. Andre Jackson's probably just – foul trouble worries me with him just because the guards are so athletic for Miami. But if they're not and he's on the floor, man, like, he just creates so much havoc, Jay. Like, what do you do with these 3? If I'm ranking them, I go Hawkins 1, Jackson 2, Newton 3, which makes me like Newton for a large field DFS perspective. But that's how I would rank them.
Kind of stole my thunder there, Cat. I like playing Newton the most out of these guards that we're talking about here at 6,400. Get the 21% usage rate, 27% assist rate. There are going to be buckets scored in this game. But he also shoots 37% from 3 and has shot 117. Like, this team shoots threes. Like, you talked about Hawkins being similar to Ray Allen, just reminding you of that. Well, he shot 273s, this season. So he also shoots the ball from 3 like Ray Allen does, okay? And you got to love that.
But he's got to make shots. That's where he's different from Newton.
Because he doesn't chip and dip. He's got to score the basketball, so that might scare you a little bit with Hawkins. there, and that's one reason that I like Newton more than him specifically. I'm not mad at you if you want to jump all over Andre Jackson Jr. The consistency is there. 34 and 33 the last 2 games out, 29 4 games ago. Like, if I can live with 30 points at 7,100 in this slate, like, you're getting 4K there, a little bit more than 4K. I can definitely live with that. And outside of that game where he was in foul trouble 5 games ago, even before that, you look, it's 36, 30, and 34. The guy lives in the 30 fantasy point range. And when you look at a total of 100, nearly 150, man, like, this, I totally get the love that Andre Jackson can get. I like Newton a little bit more in here because of what else he brings to the table with the assists. Obviously, Jackson does rebound the ball and does throw in some assists too, chips and dips with the blocks and steals. It's a matter of preference here. I think you can get different with Newton because I think Jackson's going to be super popular here. I do think Sanogo, I don't think you can ignore him. So if you're gonna, and that's another reason why I like Newton, because you can stack Sanogo and Newton in this game.
So
exactly. So I like that. That's why I like Newton a little bit more, because I think Sanogo's got to be in your lineup here. But for me, it's from a lineup and theory perspective, I go Newton, Jackson, and Hawkins there. Caravan's interesting to me though, man. Like, it's really a boomer bust type of play here.
Absolutely.
And not something that I necessarily, want to dip my toes in at this point,
That's hot.
But, I'm going to stick to Sanogo and maybe one or even, a couple of these guards here. Let's move on down a little bit down here. You talked about Klingon earlier. You got Calcaterra. Is there anybody else here that we should consider playing? I mean, this is a high point total. Like you said, UConn's getting paced up here. Miami's 90th in tempo. UConn lives in that 200 range in the tempo. There's going to be a lot of points scored. There's going to be a lot of threes taken. Calcaterra, even though, he's not somebody that you might just look at that pops off the page, he shot 107 threes and at an extremely efficient clip at 44%. And he contributes an assist and then chips in a steal or two here. So, Klingon, Calcaterra, anybody else in the bottom half of this UConn lineup you're interested in?
Yeah, I think Calcaterra from a game theory perspective, right? Like, if you want to play that, you have to play these 2 game slates as game theories. Like, you feel like Jordan Hawkins could get into foul trouble or Tristan Newton could get into foul trouble, and Newton gets into foul trouble, Andre Hawkins and Calcaterra got to essentially run the point. Hawkins gets into foul trouble, like, you need the outside floor spacing of Joey Calcaterra. He's kind of the first guard off the bench, right? Naeem Aline, maybe. The productions really come from 2 of these blowouts, right, that we watched. So you might get enamored with the 10 and the 17, but you have to realize he probably played a little bit more than what he would in a tight game without major foul trouble. Klingon, man, I don't know what to do, dude, because, like, you don't play this guy and he plays 14 minutes and he drops 30 fantasy points. Like, I'm going to be pissed. But he's a guy that doesn't really need the minutes, man. Like, and if Sanogo, I mean, I think Sanogo's got one more year. I think he's a junior. So we get one more year of Sanogo. We got to wait one more year on Klingon, I would think. But that's next year. I was going to say, we can talk about Klingon and his, like, 25 and 30 potential next year. But look, man, he's got a 25% usage rate, a 50% combined rebounding rate, and a 15% block rate. Like, the dude is a freaking animal. We watched him just, like, change the game, which is why I worry about Miami inside, man. Amir's going to have to be big for them. Yeah, I'll play some Klingon, right? Like, it feels better to not play him and play maybe a Caravan to be different. Because you just worry about the minutes. If Sanogo gets into foul trouble, then you need Klingon.
Definitely,
Or if they decide, you're right, man. I just don't think UConn's going to change. I don't think they should change how they played the entire year. They've kind of been the same way the entire year. Why would they change now and play Caravan at the 5 with Miller at the 5 and allow Miami to get away with that? That's not how they want to play. So, man, I don't know. Any takes on Klingon or Calcaterra or Aline? Kind of off of Aline.
Aline has played, he hasn't played fewer than 15 minutes in the last 5 here. And, you sort of scroll down before this tournament started, and he lives in the 12s, the 15s. Like, okay, It doesn't excite me a lot. But again, like, he shoots 3 or 4 threes every game.
Yeah.
Period. And if he's hitting and he's getting a little bit of run, if he is in that 20, 22, maybe even 23, 24-minute range, and you see a couple of more shots of him, spending a little more time on the floor, able to put up a few more shots, he's interesting. But I think of the three here between Clingan and Calcaterra and Aline, I'm gonna go Calcaterra. I think a lot of people will.
Yeah.
It may be something, especially at that price tag at 3,700, man. Because he does chip in more than just threes.
Right.
It's an interesting play here, and another way to get another player into this lineup. So before we wrap this up, Mike, let's talk a little bit of stacking here.
Yeah.
Are you going 2-2? Are you just super stacking here?
Yeah.
And maybe taking 1 and 1 between San Diego State and FAU. What's the approach here?
Yeah, man, like two things have to go right? Like if you're going to not super stack this game, like one, this game needs to go under, and two, the other game needs to go over. And for both of those things to happen, like like you beat me and we're on to next year, right? Like I really like the UConn side. Obviously a lot of people are gonna like that 3-2, right? I feel like you have to have Sanogo. With the salary that you can save in that first game, I would love to go. You can go Sanogo, Jackson, and Hawkins, get the three horses there. I love your Newton take. Like, we've seen him pop off for a 40 piece. Like, so that that would not surprise me if he went for 36 fantasy points and completely broke the slate, because he's not going to be as popular as Hawkins and Jackson, or even a Calcaterra. People are going to want to like save salary in this game so they can play the 5 most expensive players in this game and play O'Meara on the other side of Wong or like a Jordan Miller. You know what I mean? So, 3-2, 3-3. May have a lineup or two or maybe go 2-2, but it's just tough. Like, you're just asking for things to get too cute on this side, and probably a 2-1 on the other side is maybe the most I'm willing to do, just to be different, I guess. So I think where you want to get different is the way you stack them and approach them. Like, I'm not opposed to playing Sanogo, a Caravan, and a Tristan Newton, right? And, Andre Jackson, if he goes for 4X, great. But if Hawkins goes for 3X and is in foul trouble, you're going to be way ahead of the field. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Just being different with the stacks, man. We talked about that in large field too, large field tournaments, but it's super important because you're going to find a lot of lineups that look the same as you. If you, one, you're spending all your salary, you're trying to spend all your salary, and two, if you're playing the best players in all the games, which you can kind of do, right? Like, you play 7 of the best players and play 1 cheapie, you know what I mean? In the 4 of these games. So that's going to be something that people do. And it's just not a way to be different, right? We're trying to win the 25K by ourselves.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
The optimal lineup is typically not one that's split by, popular lineups with multiple guys over 50%. You know what I mean?
Totally agree. So with that being said, Mike, let's move on now to the world famous Core Four here. Who are you liking in your Core Four? Who are some guys that, again, we're taking a stand and we're going to have heavy shares of these guys? Yeah,
man. We'll start with the first game, man. Matt Bradley. I feel like this is the game here. This is maybe a little more of a contrarian, but man, he's been so good during his career as a scorer. I feel like this is his time to step up on a big stage and knock down some big shots. He's a creator for them. Jordan Hawkins and Sanogo, they've been the 2 best players for UConn. And Jordan Miller, his matchup and just the way he's been playing and what he means to that team. That'll be the core. But, 2 games, you got to mix and match, man. So you agreeing with that core that I put up, or you moving them around? I think you're going Hawkins to Newton there, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe I don't off Bradley.
I'll probably move off of Bradley on mine, but it's hard to keep Sanogo out of the lineup. It's hard to keep Hawkins out. It's just pick your guys. Though.
It's tough.
Like that's the whole point, right? But just take your stand, do your research. You watched the show with us tonight. You've done that. Dig a little bit deeper and pick your guys that you're going to run with here, and run with them. I think Mike's Core Four is great. Get a little bit different if you want to, let me scroll up. I had somebody marked up here and I can't remember who I was.
Yeah, Martin. I know you like Newton.
Yeah. Doesn't matter, man. Just get different. Oh, I like Nick Boyd a lot. I don't know if he's Core Four material, but I'm going to have Boyd in a ton. of my lineups here. So, just you've done this. You spent some time watching this here. I see a bunch of you still hanging around, and we appreciate that. We stretched the 2-game slate into an hour-long show, but it's important because we needed to be able to break this stuff down, right? We needed to be able to talk about the different ways to approach it, the different game theories. You have to approach it from a different way than these 12-game slates we're used to. So obviously, we dug a lot deeper into these benches than we normally would have. And it's necessary. You got to know some of these players. And if you've been playing DFS like we have all season long, you're aware of them. You've heard some of these names, and now it's time to play them. Before we log off, Mike, I'm going to go to you first.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that my best bet is going to be different than yours. What are a couple of bets that you like here with these 2 games coming up?
Man, I like San Diego State, man, to cover the -2.5. I think the run here for Florida Atlantic, I think it ends, like I said at the top of the show. It feels like this is another rematch against Tennessee for Florida Atlantic, but San Diego State just has more weapons, and they also have the depth in case of foul trouble. So that's why I'm liking San Diego State to play for the title, man. What do you got?
All right. So I know I talked about how dominant UConn's been, okay? And they have been. If you don't want to go money line on Miami, then take those 5.5 points. But I love the Miami money line here, and I also like this game to go under.
Ooh,
I'm feeling like that's going to play to Miami's advantage here.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to have to happen for Miami to win this one. If you don't want to jump off the edge with me here and go Miami money line, then take those points. I think it's going to be a close game, but that Miami money line, it's killing me because we didn't take it in Vegas when we had the opportunity at plus 300, and I don't know if I can miss out on that again. I love these guards. I know I set him a little down on Wong, but God, I could just see him going for 30 points.
Yeah,
just real life points, not fantasy points. I could just see him going off 30, 35. I do like the Miami money line here, and I like this game to stay on the under a little bit. So again, that may affect the way that I approach my lineups because I do think that this one might go under. Okay. I do love Florida. I do love San Diego State here. The Florida Atlantic story is just so great, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to love the run that they've made. San Diego State, they're still thinking about a few years ago. Some of those guys were on that team where they were going to be a projected 1 or 2 seed, and that season got shut down because the world shut down. Those guys are hungry. I love San Diego State in this spot as well. But I'm diving off the cliff. Come with me, baby. Let's go Miami money line, and let's get crazy. Let's get weird. Mike, anything you want to say before we wrap up the show?
Nah, man. It's been our guy Eric, on the moon or whatever he's doing. It's been awesome covering all these slates. We've done a ton of DFS content. We played won 3 tournaments. I'm hoping to come back next year. Maybe add one before the end of the year right here tomorrow. But yeah, man. So it's just been a lot of fun talking about this, and we all different opinions. And I think that's the thing, right? That's what makes DFS fun. And we're gonna be here during the off season covering, making sure we know what these rosters are going to look like, what these coaching staffs look like. You should see our text message thread. Like it's just absolutely crazy trying to keep up with the transfer portal. But that's what we're here for, man. We're going to be interviewing coaches during the off season, so stick with us, man. We're trying to do it big for you guys and keep you up to date with college basketball because the sport just continues to grow. And March it's all about college basketball, right? So we'll spend the 11 months doing all the hard work. If you guys want to peek in every now and then, we'd appreciate it. But we'll be here for every March for you. That's for sure.
Yeah, and we appreciate y'all. There's a bunch of you that I can see that have stuck with us the entire show tonight, and a lot of y'all that have done that all season long. We appreciate that. We appreciate the interactions. We appreciate y'all telling the fellow hoop heads in your life about us. You've done all the research all year long. We got a 2-game slate here in the Final Four. It doesn't get any better than that. Make sure you get that subscribe button smashed. You always have those notification bells on. And you know what I think that's going to lead to? It's probably going to lead to you getting this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.